Gratitude isn't something you force yourself to feel. It's something you notice when your nervous system finally believes it's safe to exhale. And if that sentence stirs something in you, if it makes you feel both relieved and a little exposed, then you're exactly where you need to be, because you've probably tried the gratitude thing. You've written the lists. You've named the blessings. You've told yourself you should appreciate what you have. And still, your chest stayed tight. Your thoughts kept racing. Your energy didn't lift the way people promised it would. You're not failing at gratitude. You're not broken. You're not low vibration because you have hard days. You've simply been trying to do gratitude from the mind, while your body is still living in protection mode, and your body always wins that argument. So let's slow down together for a moment. Notice your shoulders. Notice if they're holding up the weight of something that isn't meant to be carried alone. Let your jaw loosen just a little, not because you have to relax, but because you're allowed to soften in this moment. And let this be true right now. You don't have to fake gratitude to be spiritual. You don't have to paste light over pain. You don't have to pretend you're okay to deserve peace. Your heart already knows this, and something in you recognizes how exhausted you've been from trying to fix yourself into positivity. Because what so many people don't say out loud is this: gratitude, the way it's usually taught, can feel like emotional gaslighting when you're in the middle of real life. When you're grieving someone, when you're burned out, when your body is tired in a way sleep doesn't touch, when you've been disappointed again and again and you're trying so hard to stay open, but your trust feels thin. Have you noticed how heavy it feels when you try to be grateful from guilt? Like you're doing it to prove something, to the universe, to other people, to yourself. Like gratitude becomes another task you have to perform correctly, or else you'll attract the wrong things. Sweetheart, that's not gratitude. That's pressure wearing a spiritual costume. Real gratitude doesn't tighten you, it opens you. Real gratitude doesn't demand you deny what hurts. It simply asks you to tell the truth about what's here, and then to notice what is also here. Both can be true. You can be hurting and grateful. You can be frustrated and grateful. You can be uncertain and grateful. You can be in the messy middle of becoming and still be held by goodness. And yes, I said goodness, not perfection, not constant happiness, goodness. Because gratitude is not about saying life is always beautiful. It's about remembering that life is still alive inside you. If you've been feeling flat lately, numb, unmotivated, disconnected, it's because your system has been overworking to keep you safe. When the nervous system has been braced for too long, it reduces your capacity to feel the subtler emotions, like appreciation, awe, tenderness. Not because you're ungrateful, but because your body is prioritizing survival over sweetness. Now, I'm going to give you one more practice, and it's the one I want you to take into daily life because it's simple and it changes the entire tone of your day. It's called Morning Template, Evening Integration. In the morning, before your mind grabs the day, you choose one gratitude intention, not a list, one intention. It might be, today I notice support, or today I notice ease, or Today, I notice moments of beauty. And then you go live your life. You don't force anything. You simply set your attention like a compass. And in the evening, you ask yourself 3 gentle questions. What did I receive today? What did I handle today? What did I learn to honor today? You might write 1 sentence for each, or you might just whisper it to yourself in bed. This does something powerful. It trains your system to recognize receiving. It trains your system to recognize capability. It trains your system to recognize growth. And when those become your internal landmarks, your vibration changes. Because you are no longer rehearsing lack, helplessness, and stagnation. You are rehearsing support, strength, and becoming. Now, as gratitude becomes a lived experience instead of a performance, you start to notice something strange happening around you. You start to feel less desperate, less grasping, less frantic. And that might sound small, but it changes everything. Because desperation has a frequency. It says, I need this to be okay. And gratitude softens desperation into trust. Trust doesn't mean you stop wanting. Trust means you stop squeezing life so tightly that you can't feel it. When you stop squeezing, you receive more. And receiving is the vibration you've been trying to reach. In the coming days, you might start to notice that small things touch you more. A song, a breeze, a kind message, a moment of quiet. And it may surprise you how emotional it feels. Because when the heart has been guarded, tenderness can feel like a wave. Let it be a wave. That's your system thawing. That's your vibration returning. Now, I want to bring this all together because I don't want you to leave with a concept. I want you to leave with a lived path. Here's what we've come to understand. Gratitude is not a demand for happiness. Gratitude is the practice of receiving. Receiving creates safety. Safety creates coherence. Coherence changes what you transmit. And what you transmit shapes what you notice, what you choose, what you allow, and what you create. This is not magic in the childish sense. It's sacred in the practical sense. Now, place a hand somewhere on your body if that feels okay. Your chest, your belly, your arm. Somewhere you can feel warmth. And take 1 slow breath. Not to do it right. Just to be here. Now ask yourself softly, what is one true thing that is okay right now? Let the answer be small. Let it be honest. And when you find it, let yourself receive it for 3 seconds longer than you normally would. 3 seconds is a different life. Because most of us rush past what is good. We sip goodness quickly, as if we don't deserve to stay. But you deserve to stay. You deserve to stay with what is nourishing. You deserve to let your system learn that relief exists. And as you practice this, once a day, twice a day, in tiny moments, you begin to shift your vibration without force. You begin to feel steadier. You begin to feel more present. You begin to feel less afraid of your own emotions because you realize you can hold complexity. You can hold pain and beauty in the same breath. You can be human and still be powerful. And then the world begins to meet you differently. Not because you performed spirituality well, but because you became receptive. Because you stopped fighting the present long enough to feel what is real. And then we bring it home, the way the sun warms a room slowly, until you realize you've been cold for years. Gratitude is that warmth. Not the kind you demand, the kind you allow. So when you find yourself spiraling, when your thoughts are loud, when your energy is low, when you feel like you're slipping, remember this. You don't need a perfect day to shift. You need one true thing, one breath, one moment of receiving. And if all you can say today is, "Thank you for helping me make it through," that is enough. That is real. That is powerful. Somewhere deep inside you've always known. Your energy was never meant to be forced into brightness. It was meant to be returned to truth. And the truth is, you are already worthy of ease. You are already worthy of softness. You are already worthy of being supported. Let that settle for a moment. And as you move forward, may you notice the smallest gifts with the reverence they deserve, until those small gifts become a new way of living, and in that space, something new can emerge. And in that context, just be grateful can feel impossible. So here's what I've come to understand. The shift you're looking for doesn't begin with a thought. It begins with a sensation. It begins with a moment of safety. Because your vibration, your energy, your frequency, the tone you bring into a room is not only about what you believe, it's about what your body expects. If your body expects stress, it prepares for stress. If your body expects disappointment, it braces for disappointment. If your body expects to be alone in everything, it tightens into self-reliance. And then you can say all the affirmations in the world, and your system will still broadcast the signal of guardedness. That's why gratitude is so powerful when it's real, because real gratitude is proof to your body that something is safe enough to receive. It's a tiny, sacred moment of receiving, and receiving is a vibration. Let that settle for a moment. The goal isn't to force your life to look different so you can finally be grateful. The goal is to start practicing receiving right where you are, so your life begins to respond to the new signal you're offering. And I want to say something very clearly, because you deserve to hear it. You do not have to be high vibe all the time. You don't have to be cheerful to be powerful. You don't have to be over it to be healing. What we're doing here is not chasing a mood. We're cultivating a home frequency, the one you return to again and again, even when waves move through you, like the tide. Not because you control the ocean, but because you remember you are the ocean, even when the surface is restless. Now, there's something happening in gratitude work that most people skip right past. They assume gratitude is an emotion. They try to feel grateful, and when they can't, they conclude something is wrong. But gratitude is also a skill, a muscle, a form of attention. And attention is energy. What you consistently notice becomes what you consistently experience. Not because the world magically changes every time you think a happy thought, but because your brain and body filter reality based on what they're trained to look for. When you train your attention to find threat, you see threat everywhere. When you train your attention to find lack, you feel lack even in abundance. When you train your attention to find what's working, your system begins to soften, and softness changes everything. Because when you soften, you become receptive. And when you become receptive, you become magnetic. Your heart already knows this. You've felt it before, even if you didn't call it vibration. Have you ever walked into a room where someone is calm, steady, present, and without them saying a single word, you feel your own body calm down? That's frequency. It's not a concept. It's a transmission. And gratitude is one of the most natural ways to change what you transmit, because it changes what you're living inside. But we're going to do it in a way that's honest, a way that doesn't shame you for having a human nervous system, a way that doesn't demand you skip your grief. So let's name the 2 types of gratitude, because this might be the missing piece for you. There's performative gratitude, and there's embodied gratitude. Performative gratitude is the one you do because you think you're supposed to. It sounds like, I should be thankful. It has an edge of obligation. It's often laced with fear of being judged, fear of attracting negativity, fear of being seen as unspiritual. Embodied gratitude is different. It isn't I should, it's I notice. It's simple, quiet, real. Embodied gratitude might not even look like a list. It might look like you standing at the sink, feeling warm water over your hands, and something in you whispers, "Oh, I'm here. I'm alive." It might look like you taking one full breath without rushing, and realizing how long it's been since you did that. It might look like you seeing a single beam of light on the floor, and for 1 second you stop fighting the moment. That's gratitude. Not dramatic, not forced, just true. And if you've been carrying shame about not feeling grateful enough, I want you to set that down now. You've been carrying so much already. You don't need spiritual shame on top of everything else. This hasn't been an easy season for you. I see that. So many souls right now are walking through this exact transformation, feeling stretched and sensitive and tired in ways they can't explain. And yet here you are, still listening, still open, still willing to shift. That takes courage. So we're going to start with the simplest truth. Gratitude isn't a gratitude list. It's the moment your body stops arguing with the present. And you don't need to stop arguing all day. You just need a few moments. Because a few moments, practiced consistently, become a new baseline. Now, let's talk about vibration in a way that's actually useful. Your vibration is not a moral grade. It's not a score you earn. It's a state of being shaped by your thoughts, yes, and also by your emotions, your environment, your habits, your boundaries, your sleep, your stress, your relationships, your self-talk. It's the sum of what you're rehearsing internally. So if you've been trying to shift your vibration by thinking differently, but your life still feels heavy, it may be because your system is still rehearsing the same inner atmosphere. And gratitude changes atmosphere. Gratitude is like opening a window in a room that's been closed for too long. Not to pretend the room was never stale, but to let fresh air in. Do you feel the difference? Even as you hear that metaphor, something in you might loosen, because you don't have to bulldoze your emotions to shift. You just have to create airflow. So here's the first teaching wave, and this is important to hear. Gratitude is not a denial of what's wrong. It's a recognition of what's right, even in the presence of what's wrong. That's why it works. That's why it shifts vibration, because it trains your system to hold complexity without collapsing. It tells your body, I can see pain, and I can still see beauty. It tells your mind, I'm not trapped in one story. It tells your heart, I can stay open, even here. And openness is a frequency. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but how do I do that when I'm really struggling? Let's be very specific. When you are in a hard moment, your mind tends to go global. It makes sweeping statements. Nothing is working. I'm always alone in this. I can't catch a break. This is never going to change. Those statements feel true in the moment because they match the emotion, but they also tighten your world. They shrink possibility. They turn one difficult moment into a whole identity. And gratitude, used wisely, interrupts the global story. Not with lies, with precision. So instead of everything is terrible, gratitude says, this part is hard, and this part is still holding me. This is the difference between bypassing and integration. Bypassing tries to jump out of the hard part. Integration holds the hard part and widens the frame. So I want to give you a practice right now that you can do even if you're not in a good mood, especially if you're not in a good mood. It's called the One True Thing practice, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You don't have to find 10 things. You don't have to feel ecstatic. You don't have to convince yourself. You just find one true thing that is okay right now. 1. Maybe it's tiny. Maybe it's my bed is supporting me. Maybe it's I have a glass of water nearby. Maybe it's my feet are warm. Maybe it's I can hear a sound that tells me I'm not alone on this planet. Maybe it's I made it through today. And when you find your one true thing, I want you to bring it into the body, not into the mind. So if your one true thing is warm tea, don't just say it. Feel the warmth. Let your hands wrap around the cup. Notice the scent. Let your shoulders drop 1 millimeter. That millimeter matters because your body is learning something. Receiving is possible. This is important. Gratitude doesn't shift vibration because it's positive. It shifts vibration because it's receptive. and receptivity is a doorway. Now, some of you are incredibly sensitive, and you've been carrying a lot of energy that isn't even yours. You walk into rooms and you feel everything. You scroll your phone and your chest tightens. You talk to someone you love and you feel their anxiety in your own body. If that's you, your system may be on high alert most of the time without you even realizing it. And that makes gratitude harder, not because you don't have a grateful heart, but because your system is overstimulated. So here's what I want you to try, especially if you're an empathic soul. Before you practice gratitude, practice grounding. Just one breath. Feel where your body meets the chair, the bed, the floor. Notice the weight of your hips, the contact of your back, the way gravity is holding you without asking anything in return. And then say quietly, inside yourself, I am here. Not as a mantra to force belief, but as a gentle orientation. I am here. And then, one true thing. That's it. It's so simple your mind might dismiss it, but your nervous system won't. Because it's the difference between trying to think your way into a vibration and allowing your system to enter it naturally. Now, let's deepen this because there's another layer that changes everything. Gratitude is not only about what you have, it's also about who you're becoming. And sometimes the most powerful gratitude is not, I'm grateful for my life, when your life feels complicated. Sometimes the most powerful gratitude is, I'm grateful I didn't give up on myself. Can you feel that? You've been carrying this, the quiet effort of surviving, of showing up, of trying again after disappointment. And so often, no one claps for that. No one hands you a trophy for making your bed while your heart is heavy. But your soul notices. So here's a different form of gratitude practice. Gratitude as self-recognition. You look at yourself with gentleness and you name what you've done, not what you've achieved, what you've endured, what you've chosen. I got out of bed even though I didn't want to. I made that call I was afraid to make. I held my boundary even though it was uncomfortable. I apologized. I started over. I rested. And yes, I rested belongs on that list. Because for so many of you, rest has been a battle. When you practice gratitude for your own courage, something shifts. Because shame begins to dissolve. And shame is one of the heaviest vibrations there is. Shame says, I am wrong. Gratitude says, I can see goodness in me. And when you can see goodness in you, your entire field changes. Now, I want to speak to the part of you that resists gratitude because you're afraid it will make you complacent. Some people don't want to be grateful because they think it means accepting less than they deserve. They think, if I'm grateful, I'll stop wanting more. I'll settle. I'll tolerate. That is such an understandable fear. So let me offer a reframe. Gratitude doesn't make you tolerate misalignment. It makes you clear. It refines your discernment. Because when you can feel what genuine nourishment feels like, when you can recognize the subtle yes in your body, you stop chasing what only looks good on the outside. Gratitude teaches you your own truth, and truth is not complacent. Truth is powerful. So what if gratitude isn't saying, "This is fine"? What if gratitude is saying, "I can feel what matters"? And from that place, you make better choices. You choose relationships that feel kind, not chaotic. You choose work that feels aligned, not punishing. You choose rest before collapse. You choose your life with tenderness, and tenderness is a very high frequency because it requires presence. Now let's talk about something else that almost no one explains properly. When people say shift your vibration, they often make it sound like you're flipping a switch. But vibration is more like a climate than a light switch. It changes through patterns, through repetition, through what you return to. If you've been in a long season of stress, your inner climate has been stormy. Not because you did something wrong, because you've been responding to real pressure. And gratitude isn't the sun you demand to show up. It's the small act of lighting a candle inside the storm. A candle doesn't erase the storm, but it changes what you can see. It changes what you remember. It changes what you can do next. So let's make this even more practical. Here are 3 places gratitude can live, even when life is hard. In your senses, in your relationships, in your resilience. And we're going to explore each one in a way that actually shifts your energy. First, gratitude in your senses. If your mind is loud, you don't argue with it. You anchor below it. Your senses are always in the present. Your senses are like a doorway back to now. So choose one sense to practice gratitude with for 30 seconds. Sight. Find one thing that is visually soothing, a color, a shape, a corner of the room, a plant, a patch of sky. Sound. Find one sound that doesn't demand anything from you. The hum of a fan, the distant movement of life, a soft song. Touch. Feel fabric against your skin. Feel warmth. Feel the ground. Smell. Notice the air. Notice soap. Notice tea. Notice rain. Taste. One sip. One bite. Slowly. And as you do it, you let yourself receive it. This is not about being dramatic. This is about training your system to experience safety through presence. If you've been dissociating without realizing it, scrolling, rushing, staying busy, this practice brings you back. And being back is a vibration. Second, gratitude in your relationships. Now, not everyone has safe relationships. I want to honor that. Some of you have been hurt. Some of you are surrounded by people who don't understand you. Some of you are carrying loneliness that feels sharp. So I'm not going to tell you to be grateful for people who harm you. No. Instead, we find gratitude for what is supportive, even if it's small. Maybe it's one person who texts you back. Maybe it's the cashier who made eye contact and smiled. Maybe it's an animal who trusts you. Maybe it's a teacher, a book, a stranger's kindness. Gratitude doesn't require a perfect support system. It requires noticing when support appears. And here's the mystical part. When you begin to notice support, you begin to allow it. When you allow it, more can arrive. Because you're no longer broadcasting, "I'm alone in everything." You're broadcasting, "I can receive." Third, gratitude in your resilience. This one is deep, and it may bring emotion. Gratitude for resilience is not saying you're grateful for suffering. It's saying, even in suffering, something in me kept living. It's honoring your own sacred persistence. And sometimes you can only see that in hindsight. So if you can't feel grateful for your life right now, consider this. Can you feel grateful for one part of you that has stayed with you? Your breath, your heart that kept beating, your ability to begin again, your willingness to listen to something gentle when you could have hardened. You're not imagining this. That matters. That is spiritual work. That is vibration. Now, I want to offer you a brief story because it may help you feel how simple the shift can be. I once knew someone who couldn't stand gratitude practices. Every time she tried, she felt angry, like gratitude was a demand to be okay with what wasn't okay. She had been through so much, and the gratitude list felt like betrayal of her own pain. So she stopped trying to be grateful. Instead, she tried one thing. Every night, she placed her hand on her chest for 3 breaths and asked, "What supported me today, even a little?" Some nights the answer was, "Nothing," and she allowed that to be true. But over time, something changed. One night she whispered, "The hot shower." Another night, "The fact that I fed myself." Another night, "The way the sky looked for 2 seconds." And slowly, her body started to relax. Not because her life suddenly became easy, but because her system started learning that relief exists in small pockets. That's how vibration shifts in real life. Not in perfect leaps, in gentle accumulations. You're being given the same invitation right now. Now, remember what I said earlier about the quiet reason gratitude shifts vibration? Here's the piece that changes everything. Gratitude is a signal of safety, and safety creates coherence. When you feel even a moment of safety, your breath changes. Your heart rhythm becomes more stable. Your muscles soften. Your perception widens. And in that widened perception, you notice options. You notice synchronicities. You notice creative solutions. You notice people. You notice timing. Not because you forced the universe, but because you're finally able to see. This is why gratitude is so often paired with manifestation, even though people oversimplify it. The universe doesn't reward you for being grateful like a gold star chart, but your life responds to your coherence. When you're coherent, you make choices that align. You take actions that are clean. You communicate more clearly. You say yes to what nourishes you and no to what drains you. And your world reflects that clarity. So if you've been trying to raise your vibration as a way to control outcomes, I want you to soften that approach. What if gratitude isn't a technique to get something? What if it's a relationship with the present? And when you create a relationship with the present, the future opens in more graceful ways. Let that land. Now we need to talk about the hardest place to practice gratitude. When you're in the middle of disappointment, when something didn't work out, when you gave your best and it still fell apart, when you're watching someone else get what you wanted, when you're trying to trust and your trust feels bruised. This is where people either bypass or they collapse. So here's a compassionate middle path. In disappointment, don't ask, "What am I grateful for?" That can feel cruel. Instead, ask, "What am I learning to honor?" Because disappointment often reveals misalignment. It reveals what you won't tolerate anymore. It reveals what you truly want. It reveals where you've been abandoning yourself. So your gratitude might be, "I'm grateful I can see more clearly now." Or, "I'm grateful I'm no longer willing to shrink." Or, "I'm grateful my heart is still open enough to care." That last one, that's big. Because the easiest thing after disappointment is to harden. And you haven't fully hardened. You're still here. That's grace. Now, let's address something else that makes gratitude hard. Comparison. Comparison is one of the quickest ways to drop your vibration because it turns your life into a constant measurement. It makes you feel behind. It makes you feel inadequate. It makes you forget your path is your path. So when comparison shows up, don't fight it. Meet it. Say gently, "Of course you're comparing. You want reassurance." And then offer your system reassurance through gratitude that is specific to you. Not, "I'm grateful for my life in general." Specific. "I'm grateful for the way I kept going. I'm grateful for this one friend. I'm grateful for my creativity. I'm grateful for my ability to start again. I'm grateful for this moment of breathing." Specific gratitude is grounding. It pulls you out of the imaginary scoreboard and back into reality. And reality is where your power is. Now, I want to give you a practice that you can use anytime you feel your energy dropping. It's called Gratitude as a Frequency Reset. It takes about 90 seconds. And yes, 90 seconds can change your whole day when done consistently. Here's how it works. First, you name what is true without drama. This is hard. I feel overwhelmed. I feel sad. I feel tired. Just truth. Then you name one thing your body can receive right now. One breath, One sip of water, one stretch, one moment of warmth. And then you add gratitude as a soft ribbon around that receiving. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for this water. Thank you for this moment. Not to be poetic, to be present. Because your system hears gratitude as it's okay to receive, and then, this is key, you end with a gentle affirmation that doesn't demand belief. Something like, I am supported in ways I can't fully see yet. Or, life is meeting me even here. Or, I am learning to trust my own timing. These aren't guarantees, they're openings. And openings shift vibration. If you do that once a day, you begin to build a new baseline. If you do it twice a day, you begin to feel a steady inner climate, even when life fluctuates. And I know, some of you are thinking, but my life is so busy. This is precisely why it works, because it doesn't require a perfect life to practice. It requires a pause, and you are allowed to pause. Now, there's another gratitude practice that is extremely powerful, and it's often overlooked because it's not flashy. Gratitude for what you're not doing anymore. This one is for the people who have been healing, for the people who have been breaking patterns, for the people who have been learning to choose themselves. Think about what you no longer tolerate, the relationship you left, the habit you softened, the self-talk you're catching sooner, the way you're starting to rest before you collapse, the way you're beginning to say no without apologizing for existing. You might not feel proud of it every day, but you can be grateful for the growth that is already here. Because your vibration is not only influenced by what you have, it's influenced by what you've released. And release is a frequency shift. Now, if you've been struggling with sleep, anxiety, or persistent stress, I want to say this with care. Spiritual practices can beautifully support your wellness journey, and they work best alongside what your body and healthcare providers guide you toward. Your well-being deserves a full circle of support, inner work, outer resources, and compassionate care. Gratitude is one tool among many, and it can be a gentle companion, especially when your nervous system needs steady reassurance. Now, I want you to imagine something with me, just for a moment. Imagine your life is a garden. You don't stand over the soil and scream at the seeds to grow. You water, you tend, you pull weeds when they show up. You protect the tender shoots. You trust timing. Gratitude is like watering the parts of your life that are already alive, not the weeds, not the lack, not the fear, the living parts. And when you water what's alive, it grows. Not always instantly, but consistently. And you begin to feel it, the quiet expansion. That expansion is vibration. Now I want to be honest with you. Some days, gratitude will feel natural. Other days, it will feel like you're walking through fog. On fog days, don't force grand gratitude. Use neutral gratitude. Neutral gratitude is not emotional. It's factual. I'm grateful my body is breathing. I'm grateful I have shelter. I'm grateful I can rest. I'm grateful I have access to support. Even if you don't feel warmth, you can still acknowledge truth. And acknowledgement is the beginning, because numbness isn't a failure, it's often a form of protection. So when you're numb, gratitude becomes a gentle way of telling your system, I'm here with you, I'm not abandoning you. That alone can shift your energy. Now, let's talk about why gratitude can sometimes feel triggering. For some people, gratitude was used against them. They were told, you should be grateful, when their feelings were valid. They were told to appreciate what they had while their needs were ignored. They were made to feel selfish for wanting more. So when you hear gratitude, your body might remember that control. If that's your story, I want you to hear this clearly. You get to redefine gratitude. Gratitude is not obedience. Gratitude is not silence. Gratitude is not staying small. Gratitude is sovereignty. It's you choosing where your attention lives. It's you choosing to receive what is nourishing. It's you choosing to honor your life without denying your needs. And from that place, gratitude becomes freedom, not pressure. Your heart already knows this, and you might be ready to let gratitude become yours again.